My experience with S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Shadow of Chernobyl, released way back in 2007, was a brief affair of unrealized possibility, an experience quickly neutered by the numerous bugs and awful performance. It was a game I always meant to get back to, but never did. The game spawned 2 expansions in the following years, Clear Skies and All Appropriate, and in 2024, the Legends of the Zone Trilogy that bundled all 3 games arrived as a refined package for last-gen consoles, with backwards-compatible performance modes for current-gen consoles. This release was a timely affair, coinciding with the long-awaited and highly anticipated sequel, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2: Heart of Chernobyl. A little over a year later, the enhanced Legends of the Zone Trilogy has arrived as an alternative to the PC originals, and offers a few embellishments for modern consoles. The question is, does this update make it worth braving the radioactive and mutant-infested wilds of the Zone again? Before we get to that, S.T.A.L.K.E.R is, if you have never played it, a first-person survival action hybrid that dips its toes into the scientific horror genre. As the name implies, it's set after the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown that, in this universe, has given birth to the Zone, a large expanse of land now haunted by radiation pockets, deadly anomalies, and all manner of nightmarish mutated creatures. Into this inimical landscape have come the titular stalkers, soldiers, mercenaries, and all manner of folk for whom the draw of the Zone is too much to ignore. In the original, you play as an amnesiac stalker, on a journey to find and eliminate another stalker named S.T.A.L.K.E.R, who once made it to the mythical center of the Zone. What has he done to deserve this fate? And how does it tie into the ongoing expansion of the Zone? All these questions and many more may be answered in your journey. The prequel, Clear Skies, and direct sequel, Call of Pripyat, throw you into the boots of different stalkers, fleshing out events that led into Shadow of Chernobyl, and setting the scene for the sequel, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2: Heart of Chernobyl. Despite new mechanics and quality of life improvements in the subsequent games, the one thing that remains consistent is the unforgiving, hardcore role-playing experience. The life of an unprepared and reckless mercenary is short, and life in the Zone is shorter still. Well, most FPS at the time were content to continue as blistering fragathons. The S.T.A.L.K.E.R games chose a more RPG-like and survival-focused approach. Supplies were in short, supply. Armor would deteriorate, weapons would jam. Pockets of radiation and anomalies littered the landscape, so you had to keep an eye on your Geiger counter and detector while simply exploring. Gunfights against mutants and other stalkers were tense affairs that could result in a lot of autosave or quicksave reloads. Even if you found exoskeleton armor and a decent shotgun, you were no Duke Nukem, and running around in the open was certain death. Finally, there was the quest and reputation system to keep you pushing deeper into the Zone. All 3 games are full of primary quests and no shortage of secondary tasks to earn money and move the story along, all of which results in a lot of back and forth across the relatively large and dynamic world. Add in a quest failure system and NPCs that could be killed, and you have a game that requires careful thought as to how you approach its world and tasks. Now, while I use the term role-playing, it's not in the traditional video game sense. There are no skill trees to upgrade or new abilities to learn. Improved weapon and armor can be picked up or crafted in the later games. Instead, role-playing is all about how you approach the game, its many combat scenarios, and a few mission choices. It's about immersing yourself in the experience and taking responsibility for acquiring gear and stockpiling sufficient ammunition and consumables before heading out. By today's standards, what S.T.A.L.K.E.R was attempting with its gameplay may seem commonplace, but at the time it felt groundbreaking, and its influence can be seen in the Metro IP, and no shortage of other first-person survival games since then. The enhanced editions boast a number of changes, from bug fixes to an enhanced UI, gamepad support, and other quality-of-life changes. Beyond resolution and frame rate optimizations for the current-gen consoles, there are a myriad of visual tweaks. Water quality and surface shaders result in a more realistic appearance for fluids, with wetness shaders to make the world look that much more muddy. Skyboxes and atmospheric effects have been enhanced too, and look fantastic, with a more painterly look to the clouds that better match the various weather settings and locales. The field of view has been expanded if you want it, and textures for characters, clothing, weapons, and the environment have also received an overhaul, featuring more noticeable details such as creases on cloth or the wrinkles on character faces. Perhaps the most significant change was to the lighting system, which includes new effects and global illumination. Rounding out the visual enhancements are screen space reflections that look great on water surfaces and a few maps. There is a big caveat though. If we're comparing the Legends of the Zone trilogy, even before this update, to the original PC S.T.A.L.K.E.R release, the difference is night and day. But if we're comparing it to last year's console release, it gets a little muddier. In short, this release is going to feel most impactful to PC players who have only experienced the vanilla games, are looking for official gamepad support, and aren't interested in modding the game. Unless you're starting off with Clear Skies or Call of Pripyat, both of which give you a nice view of the new water effects and reflections in their swampy starting areas, the bulk of the additions will be barely noticeable to returning console players. Nowhere is this more true than in Shadow of Chernobyl. While the updated character textures are noticeable in direct comparisons, aspects like changes to the lighting system either don't stand out much, or don't interact with environments and NPCs in the way you would want them to. As an example, in the opening scene that has you chatting with the merchant Sidorovich, you'll immediately notice how the lighting emphasizes the polygonal nature of his face, but does not illuminate it correctly as it moves. As later and more refined releases, Clear Skies and Call of Pripyat interact better with the new visual features, while Shadow of Chernobyl probably needs a more substantial overhaul of assets. These are 18-year-old games, after all, and it would take a full remastering to bring them up to modern visual standards. On the upside, these enhanced Legends of the Zone versions of the game are a free upgrade to all owners of the PC originals, on Steam and GOG, and for consoles, bar the original Nintendo Switch at the moment, something I expect to change with the arrival of the Nintendo Switch 2. While the enhancements may not be as visually enthralling or noticeable as one would hope on console, they're still nice additions to a classic collection of games whose PC originals are looking a bit long in the tooth, particularly for those who don't want to navigate the trial and tribulations of modding. GSC Game World also deserves credit for simply ensuring these iconic and influential games remain accessible on as many platforms as possible. Regardless of your feelings on the visual enhancements, S.T.A.L.K.E.R Legends of the Zone Trilogy Enhanced provides some much-needed fixes while keeping the spirit of the original games intact. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel as it helps us grow.